Good afternoon, dear friends and neutral inclined people, and let our foes disappear like dew in the sun. Um, I want to make a little confession. I am an irresponsible, uh, what you could call a couch general, maybe even a couch generalissimo, given the scope of my aspirations and ambitions, especially as measured against the scope of my actual experience and uh, actual accomplishments in life. Truth is, once years ago, almost 30 years ago, I nearly joined U.S. Army, but it never came through. There was a major misunderstanding. In my opinion, I was not the culprit, but it just did not work out. So I have a zero actual military experience, and when I talk about the preferability of military solution to just about every conflict out there uh, on the planet Earth, in particular with the use of American military power, I can easily be accused of that being that very couch generalissimo, irresponsible warmonger, totally given to his utopian neoconservative dreams, who is willing to put other people's lives and well-being on the line for his ideas, which in my case I'm not even making any money of. It's just my uh, idea of the world to which I have clung for almost all my life. And it's just, sometimes that when your sports team wins, you feel such joy that it does not depend on whether you won a bet on your team. It just, or if you won a million bucks from that bet. It's just a purely moral satisfaction when you see things going your way. Anyway, yes, the accusation is absolutely well founded. But here's why I still remain the couch generalissimo. I do believe that when there is a will, there is a way, and whether soon or with some serious lag, but the right steps in history are usually rewarded. The steps towards justice are rewarded, however difficult sometimes they may be. Today, Iraq, for instance, is fairly stable and even already running campaigns of advertisement enticing foreign tourists to visit those historical sites that for decades remained practically off limits to the world, to researchers, to tourists, because first of the regimes governing that country and then the conflicts that befell it as a result of those regimes' policies. That, in my opinion, absolutely rewards what George Bush Jr. did 23 years ago. I always stood for President Bush being absolutely correct in starting Second Iraq War. I always believed that his father was wrong to not finish Saddam off back in 1991. I believe that President Bush took up a great historical mission and a great responsibility for which he has paid in full and even with some dividend to his critics. Um, and ultimately, I believe he's been proven right. And I believe that the same thing could be accomplished in Iran had Donald Trump used more of Bush's approach, building up coalitions, running public relations campaigns both inside and outside country to build up support for that action, and gathering the real big military resources to accomplish the set goals. But then I also think that even with the forces gathered so far, some things could be accomplished, such as creating the zones free from the rule of current Tehran regime, perhaps organizing there some kind of armed forces representing the Iranian society, the true will of Iranian people, and setting the stage for eventual overturning of the situation on the battleground. that is on the ground itself. And I do believe that as far as potential American losses during such events, the danger of such losses by the skeptics, by the critics, is very, very inflated and exaggerated. I believe that when seeing that the foe has insurmountable advantage, even the most fanatical forces of evil sooner or later crumble. People start defecting, people start panicking, and capitulate in the end. Germany, Nazi Germany, ultimately found within its ranks a certain Admiral Dönitz, who found it in himself to head a temporary government after Hitler committed suicide, and then a few days later signed the capitulation pact with the Allies, and the rest was history. Same thing had happened slightly later, that same year, 1945, in Japan. Um, I also believe that people who criticize whichever president they lash out at, Bush Jr., Trump, maybe Obama in some cases, or Clinton, for sending American young men and women of the U.S. armed forces into harm's way for no reason, for a war of choice, is actually a very hypocritical position. First of any war is a war of choice. United States could have given into Japanese demands after Pearl Harbor. Okay, guys, we get it. You want freedom of control over East Asia. You want our oil, we'll give it to you. Just don't attack us anymore, right? Could could have done the same thing after 9/11. Uh, every war is a war of choice. On the other hand, punishing evil regimes that slaughter their own people and support terror all over the world is not really a war of choice. It is just as much within American and any other sane uh, nation, not necessarily developed Western nation, but any uh, nation that is governed at least along with the smallest possible, the lowest possible common denominator of sanity and decency. Punishing such regimes, holding them accountable, is in everybody's interest. So, in this sense, however clumsily President Trump has executed this war, I still support him for at least having it done in some way. And as far as sending the young men and women into the uh, line of fire, into the line of danger, um, I think it takes away from the feet of people that dedicate their lives to defense of their country and its values, ultimately defending the world. I think American Army, being purely professional, whether you call it a mercenary, whether you call it a voluntary, professional, whatever, for over 50 years now, after Vietnam War, uh, it consists of people who are of legal age and totally totally in control of their life decision making. They decide for themselves to choose military careers, and I don't think they don't realize that they might be one day finding themselves on front lines or in other ways put in danger. They do it deliberately, and they do not deserve being pitied for that. They deserve being praised for that. And I also believe, since I already said that the most fanatical force is going to dissipate when seeing there is no way to win, that there would not be even that many losses involving possible decisive military action on part of, in this case, President Trump, if he were so to decide towards the current Iranian regime. Now, of course, right now it looks as if that's not going to be done. He is going to do his typical taco, He declared that the signing of deal with Iran is going to be today. As of now, I am not sure if anything has happened. The last I saw is that Iran was essentially denying that the signing ceremony was going to take place today, although Pakistanis, the newly found the peacemakers of the world, were claiming that that is indeed the case. I am not sure what kind of agreement was even going to be signed. I think it's more going to be some kind of truce, perhaps for the duration of the World Cup, and maybe then some. Maybe I really do not think it's possible to reconcile with the current Iranian regime the way it is, although it's possible to bet on some figures within it, such as President Pezeshkian, to eventually kind of become Iranian Gorbachevs. That would be possible, but again, they need to see clearly that doing the other thing, continuing to either side deliberately with the Islamic Revolutionary Guards or passively playing along with their game out of maybe feeling of powerlessness or hopelessness or whatever, that ultimately does not pay well. They need to understand that basically the wages of sin are death, and the wages of sins of aggression against both your neighbors, be it Israel, be it Arab countries, be it more remote places, or against your own people, tens of thousands of which the regime killed at the start of the year. That's punishable. That is utterly punishable. So I think, being the couch generalissimo that I am, that ultimately history will judge me and those thinking along my lines correctly. Thank you for your attention to this matter, dear friends and neutrally inclined persons.